suffering is nothing by itself, but suffering shared with passion of Christ is a wonderful gift, the most wonderful gift, a token of love, a famous quotation by Mother Teresa. The portion for today's devotion is Mark chapter 10 verses 32 to 34. Here Jesus speaks third time about his death, that is, his suffering to save us from the sins. Suffering is the Christian's path to glory. Normally we ask a question, why this to me? Why now? What is God doing? Suffering is a tool God uses to get our attention and to accomplish His purposes in our lives. It is designed to build our trust in the Almighty, but suffering requires the right response if it is to be successful in accomplishing God's purposes. Let me say that only those who share in Christian sufferings now will share in His glory hereafter. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 17 says, "And this small and temporary trouble we suffer will bring us a tremendous and eternal glory." While suffering does make us stronger, it makes us able to endure with patience, increases our faith, teaches us to trust God, and leads us to depend on Christ and His Word. How should we respond to suffering? Our Lord endured suffering with perfect patience and was exalted to the highest point of glory. He is our example of how to respond to suffering. In order to handle suffering with inner joy and tranquility, we must look ahead to God's purposes and reasons for suffering. In today's portion, verses 32 to 34, Jesus speaks of His death and resurrection to the 12 for the third time. The first two prophecies appear in chapter 8 verses 31 and chapter 9 verses 31. Jesus tells the disciples for the first time that He will be mocked, spit upon and flogged. Remember, they have declared their faith that Jesus is the Son of God, their Messiah, their King. Yet their King tells them He will be rejected, spit upon. What is the reason? If He is so powerful, why does He put up with this shame and suffering? Jesus does not love suffering. He does not suffer just in order to suffer. But as the author of Hebrews tells us, He endures shame and suffering for the joy set before Him. What is this joy? The joy of glorifying God. Jesus endured the shame and suffering of the cross so that God would be glorified. Jesus died in my place, in your place, as our substitute, taking our punishment, thereby displaying God's great mercy, love, grace and justice. If we are to suffer, how will we endure? What will make it all possible? Once again, Hebrews chapter 12 verses 1 and 2 provides the answer that let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for this joy set before Him endured the cross, scorning its shame. Friends, in order to endure suffering, we need to open our eyes and see Jesus. We need to see the joy of glorifying God, of being His own treasured possession set before us.